Okay, so today we're going to be rebuilding the master cylinder here on my 2011 Vulcan Vaquero. I apologize if my camera work is a little crap here today. I've got a strap-on GoPro and I can't really see if I've got it aimed correctly, but I think I do. So we've got the slave here. I've got my vacuum bleeder connected to it here. And we are going to start by turning the bars to get this pretty close to level. And then we're going to take this cap right here off. So you guys can see that. Okay. Now it's important to get that thing, pretty close to level if you can. That way you don't make a mess with your brake fluid. And always have some shop towels ready to go, just in case. Okay, so we're going to take this cap off of here. We're going to set that down here out the way. And we're going to grab some shop towel here. And we're going to pull the plastic support for the little diaphragm in there off. We're going to clean that guy up. Just like that. Wipe that guy off, set that down here out the way. Now we're going to carefully remove the rubber diaphragm. And there we go. We managed to do that without dripping brake fluid on anything, which is awesome. Now we're just going to kind of, clean it up best we can here. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be not drippy. Make sure you get it all pushed back in here. If it's all pushed out like that, you can push it out to wipe it off a little better if you want to. You don't really have to, but you want to get this all back like that. Set that down here. Now there'll be a little bit of fluid leakage. Carefully wipe that off. Whatever leaked up onto the top edge here when you undid everything, that does happen. Make sure we get that fluid wiped off of any painted surface, because it will eat paint pretty quickly. All right, now that we've got the fluid reservoir open, positioned where it's pretty close to level or good enough, we've got all this hooked up. The next thing we need is air. I'm gonna need air for my bleeder. So let's come over here and we'll hook the air line up here. Okay, so we have our air line connected there. Our next step is going to be to break loose this bleeder valve, which I've already unbolted the slave here. So we're gonna break the bleeder valve loose like this. Okay. And then we just push this guy down right here. And it should create a vacuum and suck all that old fluid out. This is how I bled it. Sorry, it's kind of an obnoxious sound. Let's see if we've sucked the reservoir dry yet. No, we have not. Huh. Why are you not working today? Does not appear to be bleeding at all. Huh. That's weird. This worked just fine the other day. All right, well, turn that on and we'll pump the clutch lever a few times here. There we go. Now we're sucking the fluid out. This master cylinder is just so screwed up, it's not allowing fluid pull. There we go. Now it's pulling it. See the fluid level going down? See, there we go. She's sucking that fluid right out of there. There we go. Just had to get it started. See, and what we want is to actually suck all the fluid out of the system. Okay, we're not trying to do a bleed here at the moment. we're trying to get the master cylinder off to do a rebuild on it, which means we had to get all the fluid out of the system. That should be it. We should have the fluid out of the system now. Now, we're going to, oh, I dripped some fluid on the floor over here earlier. Now, our next job is going to be, we're going to take some blue shop towel here, and we're going to try and suck out any leftover fluid that's in here, so that when we take this apart, we do not have any kind of a spillage going on. Okay, best we can there for keeping everything clean and dry. Okay. All right. Now we have to get the clutch master cylinder assembly here off the bike. Now to do that, we've got a screw right here and a screw right here, and that's going to allow this cap cover to come off, at which point this will be free. Now underneath here, you'll see there is two little connectors right here. See, it actuates that little switch. So you have to be mindful of that. We don't want to damage any of this electrical. Once we get it free, we'll determine how we disconnect that electrical. This bolt right here is going to have to come off for the hydraulic line. So we have to make certain we don't have any hydraulic fluid still in there dripping on anything. So we're going to have to be careful when we do that. And then once we get this off, we can take it to the bench and take it apart. So let's see here. These look like they're probably 5 mil. So let's see if they are. Yes, they are. Oh God, those things are in there tight. There we go. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing here. Okay, we'll set this guy down here out the way, and then we'll do this one. And then this assembly right here with the mirror on it is going to be free of the bike. So we have to hold on to this mirror so we don't lose it. And I'm also holding my fingers here against the backside of the clutch reservoir right here, so that that doesn't fall down and scratch the bike. Okay, we now have this entire clutch assembly is now, master cylinder assembly is now free of the bike. We can move it around, we can look, and we see we have 2 sets of wires here. One going here, one going here, okay? So what we're gonna do is, it looks like I can remove the Phillips head screws and remove the sensors that those are connected to. So let's see if that will achieve what we're going for here. You're kind of learning with me here because I've never actually done this job on this particular bike before. So there we are. Yep. It does help if you have butterfingers and you drop everything on the floor, like me. Okay. So there we go. We got that switch disconnected. And then we have that little connection disconnected. And again, I drop everything, so don't mind that. It was just a screwdriver. All right, so now we are only a hydraulic line connection away from having the clutch master cylinder removed from this bike. Okay. So let's see if we can find the proper connection to be, or proper tool to take that connection off, which of course all my wrenches are currently out somewhere, so it's probably going to be a 13 millimeter from the look of it. No, I think 12. I guessed wrong there. So we'll grab our 12 millimeter 6-point, less likely to round it off. Yep, that's definitely it. I'm gonna put it back up here on the bar, and I'm gonna crack it loose right there. Now, before I take this out, I wanna get me some paper towel here ready to go. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a couple of them. I'm going to cover the bike right here, and that's not going to stay there well, is it? No, it's not. All right, hang on a minute. Let's find something different we can cover the bike with quickly, so that if we have some leakage, we don't have a problem. I don't seem to have anything. You know what I do have? Tape. Okay, so we're going to take some tape here, and we're just going to tape that right up there like that. That way, if we have a problem with a little bit of leakage here, we won't hit the bike's paint immediately. Then hopefully this towel will catch it, and then we can dispose of the towel. There we are. Okay, now just lay that roll of tape right there. All right, now this should be finger tight. Let's get a couple of extra paper towels here just in case it starts dripping. You can wrap the end of it in. Doesn't really look like we're losing any fluid out of this yet. Okay, that line is disconnected, and we have the clutch master cylinder is now off the bike. I'm going to set that over here out of the way while we deal with the bike. Make certain we're not losing any fluid here. Nope, looks like we're good. This isn't going to drip. Okay, so clutch master cylinder is now removed from the bike. It's a good time to clean up your bars if you need to do that, or if not, you know. Okay, now we lost a little bit here onto my pad. Don't care about that. Now we're going to try to tip that a little and pump out whatever we can in here. We're going to come over here to the workbench where we will be working. Let's grab some paper towel so that we have a clean work surface to work on, because my shop is trashed at the moment. Every time I try to clean it, somebody else brings me another project that they need repaired, and I just haven't had any time to deal with this mess. Okay, so we're going to layer out a couple layers of paper towel here. There we go, that'll work. All right, now try to make sure we don't get brake fluid all over all of this painted surface any more than we have to. Clean that up the best we can. Keep it from making that paint soft and that paint coming off later. Okay, so now what we're after is we need to get the guts out of the master cylinder right here. Okay, so what we're going to do next, in order to be able to get to this right here, to get them guts out, we got to get that guy out right there. So let's get us a good sized flat head. Here we are. And we don't need the 12, we need the 10 millimeter. Okay, because there's a 10 millimeter nut on the bottom side of this lever. So we're going to take this right here, put it on this 10 millimeter nut, and break that guy loose. Take the 10 millimeter nut off, set that off to the side. All right, what you see oozing out right there is some copper grease. I have taken this lever apart just recently for inspection and cleaning, and I put some copper grease on it when I put it back together. All right, so now that we got that apart, we're going to go into here like this, and we're going to unscrew this guy right here. Now there's a little pressure on this thing, so you might have to push on this lever a little bit to get it out, and then the lever will just come off like that. Okay, wipe your lever off, get your old grease off there, because we're going to put new grease on it when we put it back together. Now the next thing you're going to need to do is this guy right here. Pull this out. This is this little push rod right here. That's this. Next, this little rubber boot right here. Pull that guy off. Okay, there's a little grease in there. And then if you look down in there, there's a snap ring in there. That retains the guts so that it can't just fall out. Okay, so we're going to need snap ring pliers. So we're going to come over here and we're going to go into here and get us some snap ring pliers. So from the look of it, we're going to need some smaller ones. And we need the style that is going to pull them together. So we're going to grab this one right here. Okay, so now we're going to go down in here from this angle here. We're going to see if we can turn the snap ring a little bit. Come on, I got to get on it and get it turned where I can actually get to it. Wow. Okay, let's see if my straight pair will get in there because my angled set's not going to work. Okay. So let's see. Small, straight. There we go. All right. Let's see if we can get in there with the small straight set. Oh, wow, man, that is hard to get into. The pliers don't want to sit down into the snap ring because where they get wider doesn't allow it to get into the bore. Can't seem to get that one to go down into this other one over here. I don't know if it's got debris in it or what, but boy, is she fighting me to get that snap ring out of there. Wow. Just can't seem to get into the snap ring and close it up at the same time. I can get into it, but then I can't do anything with it once I'm in it. It's kind of frustrating. Almost had it right there. Crap. All right, guys, I'm going to put you down and I'm going to have to find a different pair of snap ring pliers or something, get this figured out, and I'll come back to you. Okay, guys, and we're back. After fighting with this for a little bit, I was finally able to get the snap ring out. I had to make some minor adjustments to the tip of my snap ring pliers with a file because they wouldn't go into these little holes here. As you see, they still don't want to go in there very well. But I was able to get it out. So once you get the snap ring out, which if you've got better snap ring pliers than I do, you'll get them out easier. There's this little piece right here, and then you'll need a small little screwdriver to get this guy started. We'll pull the cylinder and the spring out, and that will give you access to the bore where you can see down in there. Now that's where the fluid gets pumped through and pushed out over here. Okay, so we're going to want to clean all of that out really good, best we can here. So we're going to wipe down this best we can. We're going to take this paper towel here and we're going to kind of pack that in there a little bit. Be careful, don't scratch that bore. If you scratch that bore, that's it. You've ruined the master cylinder's housing assembly, okay? So don't scratch the bore. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing here. Do not scratch the inside of that bore. It's a precision machined surface. Okay, so now that we've got that done and that's all cleaned out, we're going to take some brake cleaner. Let me find some brake cleaner here. Oh, I got brake cleaner here somewhere. I always have brake cleaner. There's some right there. There we go. Like I said, my shop's currently a friggin' disaster. Take a little brake cleaner. We're going to put the straw on it. we're going to get ourselves sprayed in the face with brake cleaner for sure. I'll come over here to my little drain pan here, and we're going to hose the inside of that out. Hose the inside of this out. The inside of this. Flush it in this direction. Want to make sure any debris that's stuck inside of this thing we get out. Okay, we do not want debris stuck inside of this assembly, because that's going to cause problems. Okay, now once we've got that all cleaned out real good, okay, we'll wipe it down, get all the excess off the outside of the housing. Get a nice clean fresh one here. Get the inside of the housing out. Okay, so if you, I don't know if you can see down in there, we have a nice clean bore. Our return here is all nice and clean. Shouldn't have any issues there. So everything looks like it's good and clean now, and we are ready to begin our reassembly. Now, this assembly doesn't look like it's in too bad a condition, and it doesn't actually look like it's packed full of junk, but I had a problem where my clutch couldn't return to its resting state. So it was always partially engaged, and I tracked that to not being able to push fluid back up through the line. So that's why we're rebuilding my master cylinder today. Okay. Now, we're going to reassemble this the same way that the old part was assembled. So you've got this piston here. This little rubber cup goes right there. This guy goes right here like that. Okay, these aren't actually stuck together, they're just kind of held together with some stiction. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, you can't put this together dry. If you put this together dry, you're going to have problems. Okay, so we're going to come over here, we're going to get some fresh .4 brake fluid. Okay, and we're going to pour just a tiny bit of it into the cap. There we go. That's all we need right there. All right, now we're going to take that .4 brake fluid, and we're going to get our seals nice and wet, our piston wet here, some .4 brake fluid, because that's what this requires. Okay. All right, now, don't want to handle the housing with brake fluid all over our fingers. Let's stand the housing up. Let's set our spring in there. And our little rubber plunger, just like so. Okay. Take our piston in there. Make sure it moves smoothly in the bore. No problems. Okay. We go. Now, the old spring, is I believe is the problem, was not. Ignore. Apologize for that. Getting phone calls in the middle of my video here. So the old piston spring here, the old piston, you see how it returns nicely like this? Mine was not doing that. When I unclipped it, it stayed stuck right there, just like that. It did not want to come out like this. So we'll put our little spacer in here, and now we have a new snap ring. Now, the problem we're going to have with this new snap ring is going to be the same problem we had with the old snap ring, and I don't believe I can get my snap ring pliers in here. Nope, I can't. Okay, so I'm going to have the same problem with this one. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to stop the video again and further modify these stupid little snap ring pliers so that I can actually get my snap ring pliers here into the snap ring that we need to install. Otherwise, we'll never be able to get that thing in there. So I'm going to pause the video again, and I'm going to take my file here, and I'm going to adjust these crappy snap ring pliers until I can get them in this snap ring, and we can get that to go back down into this bore where it belongs and get this reassembled. All right, and then I'll bring you back. Okay, so I'm back. All right, now after a bit of time with a file, making these a little bit smaller so I can actually get them into the little holes in these tiny snap rings, because these snap ring pliers apparently suck, we finally have the snap ring installed in the bore with this new spacer. So all these old parts right here have been replaced, except for we haven't put the cap and we haven't put the actuator rod back on yet. Now, in order to do this, before we do this, we have to put some grease on here. So what we're going to do is, this is a hydrophobic high pressure grease. I like to use this grease. You can use a lithium based or a moly based grease as well, I believe. So I'm going to take some of this, I'm going to put this in here and kind of spread that around a little bit in there like that. You see what I'm doing here? Okay, so we have grease in the bore where we need grease. Now we need to take this little seal here and push this guy through here, and we have to get this seal to come around and go into that groove, which is easier said than done. So what we're trying to do is get that part of the seal there inside of this little groove piece right here, just like the original one was, so that we have a proper seal. But that is definitely easier said than done. Oh, good. Very fiddly. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we have that seal piece in the correct location. We have sufficient grease here on the end of our actuator rod. Okay. Now, the next step is going to be, we're going to put this into here, like that. And we are going to push this seal piece here down into the bore very carefully. Till we get it all the way down in, all the way around, nicely seated. Be careful you don't tear this little bugger doing that, okay? All right, so we got that in there now. Now we have our actuator rod in place that can actuate our clutch assembly. That definitely moves much smoother than what we had before. All right, so with that completed there, sorry, I'm sweating my ass off here. It's a little warm today. With that completed there, we're going to go ahead and put this assembly back on the bike now. And the reason we're going to do that before we put the lever back on is it's just easier. Probably should have took the lever off before we took the assembly off of the bike. But hey, you know, this is a learning process for me just like it is for you. All right, so now, in a perfect world, we replace these little crush washers. You should always replace these little crush washers. Don't be me. I'm not replacing these little crush washers. Why? Because I'm stupid and I forgot to go get some. So I'm going to bolt this together and hope it doesn't leak. And if it leaks, I'm going to have to go get crush washers because I'm dumb. So yeah, guys, don't be like me. Go get your crush washers. You definitely want to have the proper crush washers when you're disconnecting hydraulic lines, so that when you put it all back together, you're guaranteed no leaks. Now, I've reused crush washers before. In a perfect world, you never do this. This isn't a perfect world. I'm limited with what I have got going on here because I forgot to buy some. So we're just going to get this loosely snugged into here. Just enough that we know it won't leak or drip. There we go. Okay, so that's not tight. It's just sort of tight. Okay, now we've got this little guy here and its buddy right here. These are for those two little sensors we unscrewed. Okay, all right, so you remember these two little sensors we unscrewed? Well, now you got to put them back on. So this guy's going to go through the bottom of this sensor right here. And this sensor right here screws right here in place right there. Let's get the sensor to sit in its spot and get it started gently here. There we go. Got it started. Okay, so now this little sensor here has a little hole that's going to go up into the bottom there, and then this little screw just needs to be snugged enough to keep it in place. Okay, now same with this. See this little hole right here? Okay, it's got a little spot right there where that little hole goes in place, just like that. Okay, and then this screw right here goes right back in there, right where we took it out from. And don't strip these. They don't got to be gorilla freaking tight, dude. Just tighten them up so that they're snugged. Okay, just tiny bit past snug. Okay, now next step, we're going to put this mirror assembly back up here. So I'm going to hold all this together like this. We're going to grab this long bolt here, put it through here, and we have to find the little threaded spot right there. We're going to try to screw it into. There we go. Now, don't cross thread this. You will have a very bad day. All right, here's the other one. It's a longer Allen bolt here. One there. And again, don't cross thread these. Okay? And if you look here, there should be a little gap there, just like there is right there. I don't know how well you can see that, but there should be a little gap. So we're going to set it up so that we have a gap about the same, and we're going to tighten it down. There we go. Now you can adjust the cant angle a little bit. Now I have a reference point because this basically just leans against that for me, and that right there will take care of my cant angle, so that my lever should be right back in the exact same spot it was. There we go. Okay, so that's all installed now. Now we're going to go back up. We're going to tighten this line right here. Okay. Now be careful, you're threading this into aluminum. Don't frickin' He-Man the crap out of this thing. You will strip this, all right? Just a little past snug, give it a little bit of force. It doesn't have to be craziness. All right, now we're going to use some copper grease anti-seize here. Okay. We're going to put a little bit in the bore here, and a little bit on this surface right here like this. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing underneath. A little bit on this surface, doesn't take a lot, a little bit in the bore. If you put too much, it's not a big deal. You can just wipe the excess off later, okay? So, now, this lever, we're going to put this lever back in place. Now, to do this, okay, the actuator rod goes into this little hole here. So this little actuator rod here has to go into this little hole. So you might have to turn this guy in there. See this little thing here? See that? It moves. You might have to turn it to get it to line up. You need to get the actuator rod to go into the little hole. Come on. Just sometimes be a little fiddly. This was much easier the last time I did this. Okay, let's pull this guy out here and make sure that this new piece that we've just installed here is actually going to go into this little hole. Yes, it will. Okay, so that's not my problem. All right, now I'm going to take just a little bit of this copper grease here and put just a touch of it onto this guy right here too, so that it moves nicely into its bore. and that'll also help hold it in place so it stays centered in the bore while you're doing this. There we go. Now once you've got it in, you just kind of swing it around like that. It's got to kind of go around the housing here, because there's a little piece sticking off the bottom of it right there. It's got to go around the housing once you get it all lined up. Now here's the tricky part. This part's a pain in the butt. So I don't know how well you're going to see this, but down inside this bore here, you got to get this lined up for this pin to go through and seat. And let me tell you, that is not fun to do, because it's a machine fit and it's got to be just freaking perfect. Just like that. There we go. Okay, it went in much easier this time than it did the last time I did this. All right, now we're going to screw this down here like this. Okay, and snug it up. Again, don't over torque this stuff. You're screwing into aluminum. Okay, wipe off the excess grease, whatever's left over. Okay, now don't forget the last component of this, the last piece, is this nut. Okay, this nut goes up from underneath and locks this pin in place. This is a pivot. If you don't put this little jam nut here, which I don't know how well you guys can see this, but I hope you can see it okay. This little jam nut right there, okay? That jam nut, I don't know how well you can see that. If you don't put that little jam nut in place and snug that little puppy down, and when you do that, I left the flathead over here, of course. When you do this, you need to hold the pivot pin here. Okay, if you don't do that, what'll happen is as you pull that lever over and over again, eventually it'll walk that pin back out. Okay, now we have a functional lever, and that is nice and buttery smooth like it should be. Okay, everything is working as it should. No problems. All right, so our next step is going to be, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill the hydraulic system back up with fresh .4 brake fluid. Before we do that, we're going to make certain our bleeder here is open, and we're going to make certain, see this right here? See how I can push that back in the bore like that? That's because there's no fluid in the system. That was not possible to do with the old master cylinder components installed. They were preventing, when there's fluid in the system, was preventing that from being able to happen, which is why the clutch couldn't be released. Okay, so we don't need this unbolted anymore. So we're going to go ahead and bolt this guy back down right here. Okay. All right, now there we are. That's all bolted back on. Again, I apologize for any bad camera work here. I'm wearing a GoPro strapped to my head for this because I don't have a camera person today. All right, now, where's that 10mm at that I was just using? There it is. So this 10mm right here will work to open or close this bleeder. So we want to make certain at the moment that the bleeder is open, but we don't want it way open so it doesn't leak and make a mess. Okay, that's plenty opened right there. All right, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to pour fluid here into this master cylinder. Oh shoot, of course I just spill it all over everything, don't I? Crap. And that's why we have our towels here, because the towels caught the spill that I just did instead of it hitting my bike. Okay, now let's wipe that off of the master cylinder, get that all cleaned off. Okay. All right, now we're going to see if we can suck some fluid through the system. Might have to pump this clutch a few times to get it to start sucking fluid. There we go. Now she's pulling fluid. All right. Now it has probably pulled enough fluid through the system at this point to at least have some into this slave, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to put some more brake fluid in here. Clean this up so I don't spill it this time. I'll put a little more brake fluid in here because we don't want to run this low. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to go ahead and hit that again. And we're just going to get it moving. There we go. And it's sucking fluid through. We're going to go ahead and top it off one more time. Okay. Now, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close the bleeder. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and close this bleeder up. All right, there we go. Bleeder is now closed off. Now, I'm going to pump the clutch a few times here, carefully. Oh yeah, I've definitely got clutch. And then I'm going to crack it off. And I'm going to pressure bleed this just a few times, the old school way. There we go. One more. There we go. All right. Okay, I'm happy with that. Oh yeah, I definitely have a good clutch now. Okay, now, before you unhook this, it's always a good idea to turn this on